Hello, Team Hank. I am very pleased to say I am joined by Liane Katz from Mama Codes. We're going to do two films with Liane. First one will be finding out all about coding and what we might want to know about that, and the second one will be finding out a bit more about what Mama Codes is and how they're breaking through and what sort of things they're doing. But firstly, Liane, hello, welcome.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Hi, lovely to be here. Thank you.
Good. I probably like a lot of parents. I'm really keen on my son becoming the next Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And my boy's 6. They're doing a bit of coding at school, but I don't really know much about it. And I'm really keen to see how they do that. How might would they be doing it better, and what sort of things we could do to enhance his experience of coding. So, what sort of things have you been up to? How does Momo Codes work?
Yeah. So that's a brilliant place to start. That's exactly the position I was in as a parent when I started Mama Codes. I'd been working in tech and I'd seen technology everywhere, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of keen but a bit clueless. I started looking into it and wanted to understand what my child might be doing at school. It's been put on the national curriculum in England from age 5, from year 1, which is brilliant.
Right.
But it is quite a short bit of guidance to teachers. It's
Yeah.
pretty broad, and they can get away with just playing with some robots on the floor once or
Exactly,
twice a term,
Yeah, some robots on. I was like, okay,
which
cool,
is great. It's a great, first step and a sort of a way to jump into the world of technology. But it doesn't get them very far.
No.
So when I like to think about children learning coding, I've observed children really quite little, even as young as 3, but certainly in year 1 and year 1 and 2 is the absolutely perfect time to start. Developing some really complex animations powered by code, which involve loads of different sequential thinking and logical thinking and breaking big problems down into small things, decomposition, and things which maybe as parents and teachers sometimes we might not think they're capable of, but they absolutely are. And I think the key thing to remember with coding is it's just a language skill, particularly in primary years and early years. And that's what children are hardwired to learn under 8, isn't it? That's what they're doing.
Is there a big orientation on fun? Like at school, do they make it fun, or is it more? So he has been making robots move around and that sort of thing. Is that
That's
pretty
pretty
typical?
fun. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Pretty typical in year 1. But you're not going to learn a new language in one sort of slightly ad hoc session a week, even if you're lucky. And generally, ICT teachers tend to teach coding for maybe 1 term of the year because perhaps they've only got a certain amount of kit to go around and they need to give it to different classes, different year groups. So I think it absolutely must be taught in a fun way. Otherwise, children aren't going to want to do this new thing. If it's presented as a dry subject, you just have to learn. Why are they going to stick with it? It can be quite frustrating at the beginning to learn. Yeah. They need some perseverance. They need to know what they're doing it for. So one big tip I have is make it fun and allow them to use it as a tool, just like you might do a paintbrush to create something that they want to create. Maybe they have a great idea for a game or an app or a design, and it's a medium in which they can express themselves, a means to an end.
So taking coding away from, I imagine, zeros and ones and actually turning it into something that we see coding as an animation or a robot.
It's what you use it for.
Yeah.
So children are really passionate about the world they live in. They want to use tech for good. They've got loads of ideas, loads of innovations and inventions up their sleeves. And if you tell them that they can record their own voice, take pictures of themselves or videos and actually integrate them into some kind of animation, their own cartoon, their own game, of course they're going to come and sit down and want to do it. Amazing. Plus it's on an iPad generally, so that's always good for them.
Okay, cool. So great. It sounds like a good thing. That all sounds really positive. It's March 2023. I say the date because everyone's seems to be talking about AI at the moment, and that's moving so fast. So if you're watching this in a few months' time, things might be quite different. But so why do you think kids should learn code? What's the benefit to that?
So there's a lot of chat about ChatGPT, for example, and no-code solutions. If anybody's ever thought about building a website or starting their own company, they might have been told, you don't need to code, just find a no-code solution.
Yeah.
That's all very well and good for sort of basic things you want to have a dabble with, a prototype. But a fully fledged product, a fully fledged business, an idea, an app, even if you use other developers to make it for you or AI tools, you're going to need to be technically literate to instruct that person or those AI tools sensibly, and to know what's true and what's false and what's reliable information and what's not. So I think AI tools are super exciting in the world of education and many other things, but they do still require the human element to discern what's valuable and correct and reliable from what isn't. It's still very nascent. And, the tech sector is expanding 3 times faster than the rest of the UK economy. So in terms of job security, it's not just about teaching them to code so that they can become software engineers in a dark room somewhere.
Yeah.
It's actually a required literacy skill, a digital literacy skill in the 21st century across pretty much every sector, from marketing to medicine and media.
Yeah.
So it's as simple as, do you want your child to be able to read in the 21st century language or not?
Okay, fantastic. I mean, makes sense to me. So, what do you think the side benefits to them are? What are the other things? Can you see the benefits if it's not just coding they're learning? How else does it work?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, really happily, I think that coding embodies one of the most positive screen time experiences that you can give your child. And as parents, and I really include myself in this, we're all pulling our hair out at times about screen time and tech use, and is it too much, and worrying that it's detrimental. And there are valid concerns about that, and everything has to be in balance for sure. But actually, if you put a child in charge of what is on the screen and creating with technology, not just consuming from it and what adults have created for them, that's an incredibly empowering thing. And it's a great way of discussing and encouraging healthier digital habits as a family.
Yeah.
It's certainly one of the no guilt screen time options I reach to.
Cool, amazing. Okay, Liane, sounds all very good. What sort of age? I'm a parent. What sort of age do you think this can start coming in? Is 3 too early?
Absolutely not. You might think, how on earth is a 3-year-old even going to sit down and engage with something on a screen? And the answer is that we've developed, and others too, ways to engage preschoolers in age-appropriate ways. So it might not be sitting down and actually, tapping or even pulling pieces of a jigsaw together where each piece is a command. That sort of could come in maybe at 4 or 5. But at 3, you can absolutely understand that coding is a set of instructions that we as humans give to computers, and the computer has to follow them exactly in that order, what to do and when, basically.
Yeah.
And there are lots of physical games that can be played, lots of flashcard games that can be played, and little videos that can make sense of that for the preschooler and the parent at the same time.
Okay, and then that leads into the school setting where I guess they're doing some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mama Coast could support around that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very consciously an extracurricular activity because we think that we know the stresses and strains schools are under. They have a very limited amount of time and resource in which to introduce what we think is just the most super exciting subject.
Yeah.
And so we have the freedom to make it fun, irreverent, silly. We have flying pizzas and cosmic donuts in our coding, and that's not necessarily in the national curriculum. Once they can move on to writing code, and that doesn't need to be in text, that can be in icon-based languages once they're still developing their reading skills, then they can absolutely have some short sessions sitting with an iPad or a tablet or a computer and piecing together these instructions. For example, start now, move over there 5 steps, change colour. And so learning to code actually can support some traditional educational skills which we might be more familiar with, such as numeracy, trying to count and estimate how many steps that character needs to take to get to a certain place. Literacy skills, ultimately lines of code are just like sentences. They have a beginning, a middle and an end. And by repeating those patterns, they're actually becoming literate in code and able to use them themselves, just like they're becoming literate in their own language and any other language that they're learning.
Fantastic. So if our Hank members want to find out a bit more, I guess your website's a good place to start. Will it tell them how your courses are structured?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have videos explaining, how coding works, what it looks like for children, and information on our curriculum, which we have designed to try and make it as fun as possible.
Cool, fantastic. We better tell people the website.
Yeah, www.mama.codes,
Cool.
CODES. And I should just add, it's absolutely for dads as well. We've had a few disgruntled dads contact us about the name and say, why have you called it Mama Codes? Is it for us too? And it was set up by mums. Mums who code, mums who were self-taught, mums who worked across tech in London, and it's absolutely for everyone. And its mission really is to empower parents alongside children about technology.
It's a great thing, especially as I think most people, it's fair to say, traditionally, till now, coding has been a relatively male-dominated thing, hasn't it?
And it still is, unfortunately. The dial is shifting, but even in the last 3 or 4 years, it's only gone from sort of 17% of the tech workforce being female to 21, 22. So we are all about inviting everybody to come and play in this space, getting to children young enough before any biases set in, and helping educate parents as well that this isn't some bogeyman that they have to sort of guard against and gatekeep against, but actually they can feel good about it. And I remember when my son was actually just rising 3 and was becoming a bit of a Peppa Pig on the iPad fiend, how much better I felt when I said, no, let's just make something. As the equivalent of kind of getting the paintbrushes out or cookie dough.
Is that getting away from that passive digestion?
It's moving from the passive into the active and creative as well, and intentional use of technology, which I think is the cornerstone of actually a healthy relationship with it longer term.
Absolutely, that's a really good point. I like that. Understanding where these animations have come from and how you can interact with them, and maybe even make your own better one.
Yeah, absolutely, and feeling empowered to change things and create things.
Awesome. Right, thank you, Liane. That was fascinating. There's just a really brief introduction to coding for young people. If you go on the Mama Codes website, there's a Hank Mama Codes code that we'll be releasing soon. Liane and her team do lots of online and in-person events, so you can check out how that could benefit your child.